All right. So before we talk about the best, let's talk about the worst because we kind of have to,
Right.
right? I'm sorry. So yes, this is our picks for worst films that we saw this year, right? In my case, I'm gonna keep it short. At least my list is gonna be five. I don't have time to to list out 10 films, like many other film critics go. But yeah, I saw 5 films, and those 5 films were the absolute worst, right? But there are a couple of dishonorable mentions, right? Or I should say, one dishonorable mention, or I should say, two noble failures, right? But technically, they are
Okay.
dishonorable mentions, right? Because I feel like if I just sit down and think about them a little bit more, or if I watch them again, I'm like, yeah, those were kind of bad, though. You know what I mean? But yeah, I will start things off, and then Ricardo, you could share. Well, you could. Well, how many worst stuff and dishonorable mentions do you have this year?
Couple.
A
I have a
couple.
couple.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
Okay.
'Cause I have a feeling like when I call out a certain title, it'll be like, oh yeah, right, I should add this, right?
Right.
So a couple for
probably.
now. A couple for now, right? And yeah, of course, CC,
Right.
you could close things off, right? So let's keep it short and sweet, right? So my picks for dishonorable mentions / noble failures: The Electric State, which I know a lot of
Right.
people were dumping on since it
Didn't-
came out
didn't
on
watch
Netflix.
this.
Dear
Didn't watch
God.
Yeah, to me personally,
this
it's
one.
not as bad as a lot of people say, but it's just so lackluster. Even by Netflix standards, though, just with the amount of
And
money
it's
that's
the
pumped
Russos,
in,
huh?
and it's the Russos,
Russos, yeah.
the
Yep.
Russos. Sorry, yeah, like yo, you know what I mean?
I
And I heard it was really expensive. So it really come across like, the industry dying time to scam the industry to the death.
Yeah, and you're almost
It
wondering
really came across, it really feel like that.
and you're almost wondering where the money went to. Did it go to
Yeah.
Millie Bobby Brown? Did it go to Chris Pratt?
Yeah.
Where anybody went?
probably
Like,
all the
it,
because
it,
like that movie had a stacked cast, right? Like there were
It
like
did.
a lot of big names in that one. Yeah, I read the comic. I because when the film came out, I saw everyone saying, "Wow, this film was really bad." But I also saw some people saying that the comic was so much better. And so I actually checked out the comic, and I cannot recommend it enough. If you like the kind
Right.
of dark dystopian tone of, I want to say, the first Fallout game, like the very first Fallout, I think you'd probably like The Electric State. Like I cannot recommend that one enough. And the guy who wrote it, his other works, I had the chance to check out the rest of his stuff. He's at all the other stuff he's written is also really, really good. So yeah, definitely check that out. It's a little palate cleanser.
Right. Well, thank you for that palate cleanser. And my
course.
second and final dishonorable mention / noble failure. This kind of hurt me for putting it there, but really what I thought about is like, wow, this really could have been so much better, especially with how brilliant, I would say magnificent, though, that first trailer was. Captain America, Brave New World.
Right.
Yeah, like just
I have,
given
I have this on my
the hype that was surrounding it though. And I think for me, the reason why this was such a letdown for me, this was the first Captain America film with Anthony Mackie, and
Right.
this show didn't even give him do him justice. Like I was expecting this to be like akin to the Winter Soldier, if not Winter Soldier, at least the first Avenger level of greatness, right? But nah,
No.
this was just
But
man.
from the time I hear all these, like, it had a ton of reshoots, and it was, a bunch of like all of this behind the scenes drama, and it just taken forever to come out, and so on, so. I was I'm gonna kind of write this off.
Yeah, so again, they're not the worst shows I've seen ever, but just massive letdowns in my opinion, right? So yeah, so let's jump into the top 5 lists. I kind of had to rank them in this case, but they're all bad, right? But yeah, speaking of noble failures, this was a film, my number 5, I should say. This was a film that could have been there, right? But then the more I thought about it, and in particular after I spoke to Ricardo about it, I was like, nah, I can't let this slide. No, this has to be in my worst stuff list for sure. Number 5, Tron Ares.
Oh boy.
Yes, it
Oh, boy.
looks great. It does.
Right.
The music by Nine Inch Nails is serviceable, right? Even though it does not hold a candle to what Daft Punk did in Tron Legacy. But just to touch on Tron Legacy quickly,
Right.
Tron Legacy is a much better film than this because at least it stuck to the law of Tron, right? And it updated the material in really creative ways, right? It's just that I felt like, it just kind of took itself a little too seriously and got a little convoluted at times, right? But in this case with
Very
Tron Ares, Tron Ares is like, okay, we kind of want to distance ourselves from Tron Legacy because it was a box office bomb, but at the same time, we want to
they couldn't get back. They couldn't get back the actors, right?
Oh, really?
I kind of got it.
That makes sense. I mean,
something
that doesn't explain why they brought in Jared Leto.
Yeah.
And listen, Jared Leto is tried here, but he is just robotic, monotone, Terminator-esque character. That's what he is.
One of my One of my favorite memes of the year was someone said, "Find someone who has as much faith in you as Hollywood has in Jared Leto being the leading man in their movies."
Yeah.
Yeah. Cause dude, like he is not even trying on this show. Right? It's just like, okay, play the Terminator character. Got it. Okay, that's cool, no problem, right? But at least like there was more depth to the character that he played in friggin' Blade Runner 2049. You know what I mean? Just saying, right? But yeah,
I remember like that.
Sorry.
I remember kind of liking him in that, or at least the concept of the character.
Yeah. I thought his character was decent in that film. Like I love the film, I love it. But yeah, his character was decent, and in terms of advancing the plot, advancing the narrative from the previous film, right? That's what made that show really work for me, right? But this one tried to do that. Okay, we're gonna bring characters from the world of Tron, whatever it is, into this movie, into our world. That was the sell, but they just could not justify. They could not explain it. They couldn't make it clear. It just felt illogical to me, right? The mere fact that Jeff Bridges is in this film, right? And for those who have not seen or don't remember much about Tron Legacy, right? His fate was left undecided, right? We're not sure if he's alive or dead, right? But he showed the goal to say, here's what. He's alive, but he is in the same grid that was from the first Tron. I was like, but no, the same character that Jeff Bridges played, he rebuilt the grid with Tron and Clue. And in the process, Tron and Clue turned bad. Okay. So now you're telling me that the grid from the first film still exists? How? They never explain that to know. So we're not sure if this is the actual Jeff Bridges or if it's just like a avatar version of it. They never explain it, and you kind of don't really care at the end of the day. But Tron Legacy explained why the grid looked the way how it did. Yes, it looked very dystopian, it looked very Blade Runner inspired, but that was the point. But it's like they explained it in that film, and they couldn't even explain shit in this one, right? But they just figure, oh, 9 Inch Nails, visual effects. That will forget the story. Just watch the visuals, man, and that was it. That was the sell, right? Get distracted by the visuals, get distracted by the music, but when it comes to the narrative, doesn't really make that much sense, right? And then they had the goal at the very end now to say, oh, the two actors from the first film that we couldn't get, yeah, they exist in this world here, so now we're gonna mention them. And yet you spend all the time kind of like restructuring what that last film did, right? But yeah, I could go on and on and on for, with that film, right? But yeah, it is one of those shows that when you see it theatrically, it looks great, right? The action, all that kind of stuff, it looks great, right? But when you sit down and really think about it, it's like, no, this makes no sense. Nonsense. So just to wrap it up, it acts as if the first Tron from 1982 is the only film that you should see before jumping into the movie. It's like, no, you need to watch Legacy. Yeah. That's the problem. That's the problem. It acts as if the first Tron is what they need to see alone. But then midway near the end of the show is like, oh shit, right, Tron Legacy happened too. But yeah, we should have told you to see that too.
Set up a thing that you was talking about. That's what kind of get me mad now.
Right.
Because the whole you can connect everything into the world and it'll change everything and so on. So yeah, he was talking about that in this, and that to me was implication.
Yeah,
right, and then so they begin that with this, and like, all right, we're doing that, and then they kind of just ignore all of that shit. Like, are you serious? Right.
Yeah. So really, it just really feels at the end of the day like, I don't know, like a third or like a third draft or something like that. Like it just felt like it was just drafts, just morphed into this one movie, right? Instead of like just one finalized script that made sense, right? But I think I talked long enough about Tron Ares, right? Number 4, a show that I almost forgot until I was reminded, oh right, we have to do our worst stuff thing, right? One of the last shows that I talked about during the BBB radio era, Opus.
Okay.
I went into this because Ayo Edeberry was there, John Malkovich was there.
Right.
The
Oh, that
premise
was
looked
right.
pretty
I forgot about
interesting.
that. Yeah.
But yeah, premise wise, it had a really interesting setup here though, but it just went absolutely nowhere. It's that whole, oh, I'm investigating this possible cult member and I'm going to go into his compound and spend time here. I'm going to see some weird shit. I was like, yeah, that happens, but then it just goes nowhere with it, right? And the very end just feels like a slap to your face. Just like all this setup literally for nothing. I barely remember a thing about
And
this
it had
outside the fact
a
that I
better
talked
version
about.
of this. It had a better version of this with Channing Tatum, right? That was this year, right?
Yes, Blink Twice.
Blink Twice.
Like twice, right?
That
Zoe
came out.
Kravitz
That
directed
came
that
out.
one.
That came out in January, I think. Right? I think.
I think so. Yeah.
Yeah.
Zoe Kravitz's first movie as a director, I think.
Right.
Oh, okay, right. Yeah, I should really like check that out, right? But yeah, Opus, so forgettable, right? Number 3. What I will say about this show is that this has the weird luck of its title being one of the best albums of this year and one of the worst films of this year, Hurry Up Tomorrow, which exists basically for the weekend to say, you know that final track off of my album, the title track? This movie is going to explain what that track was about. And I'm just sitting down watching the show after the fact. It's like, wow, that's what the movie is about? Like, I thought going in, right? This is coming from somebody who loves the album, right?
Yeah.
I thought that this movie was going to be like the visualization of the album. And it isn't. It's just about the weekend being stalked by this crazy ass fan who is played by Jenna Ortega. And I'm like, like when I think about it, I cringe. I'm like, Jenna, like, what is your talent agent doing? That's a role that person set up for you. I know, boy, but like she's there, and when she reveals herself to be psychotic, it is so cringe, boy. Like, my God, boy.
Oh boy.
And it goes it is so bad that she even plays songs from his recent works. So I'm hearing songs from After Hours and Dawn FM, and she's like saying, oh, you know, I like that this song is about this, and I like that this song is about that. But although I felt like, you know, you should have gone a little bit into, I'm like, why are we doing this? Like the movie just kind of designed to just jerk you off. Weekend. Why are we doing this, right? But yeah, but I will say,
can't see it. You can't see it, but I'm gently banging my head on my own desk right now.
But I will say one of the best things that came out of this is, of course, shut the fuck up.
Right. Yeah.
That is one of the funniest things I have seen. One of the funniest scenes I've seen in a movie all year, especially in the context of it. I was laughing my ass off when I saw it. I heard about the scene, but when you see it play out for yourself, it's like, wow, this is one of the funniest things ever. But yeah, boy, again, worst movie of the year, but from one of the best albums of the year, right? Think about that for a second, right?
Wild ride.
Yeah. Number 2 is a show that I easily would have put as my number 1, right? But I will say that this will go down as one of the greatest bad films ever made, in my opinion. This was a show that kind of, you know, we were all, or at least the ones who saw it, we all sort of like united and just said, yes, this is one of the greatest things ever that we've ever seen this year. Of course, I'm talking about War of the Worlds.
Right,
no.
Wow.
Yeah.
This was so bad, it's good, boy. Like, I am laughing at this. I am baffled at this. This is a COVID film, and yet it is so painfully cheap. And I'm seeing Ice Cube in this. Yeah, I'm like, all the money went to you. And you know, you found out after the fact, yes, it was just basically him in a room just doing all this stuff, right? Because as I said in my review,
reading cue cards.
Yeah. So like, unlike films like Missing and Searching, right? You know,
right?
Where the character is doing the whole, okay, I'm communicating with
online,
you
right?
through Facebook and through WhatsApp and all these kind of things, right? In those two films, right, the character gets up, goes out, and solves the problem. They are not seated through the entirety of the film, yelling into a computer screen like Ice Cube does. Or I should say there's a couple moments where he actually gets up, but one near the end involves him acquiring, wait for this, an Amazon package. And yes,
Right.
the shoehorning of Amazon in this is so weird, though. And just the product placement in this show is so baffling. The mere fact that you are seeing Fox News and BBC footage, right? You're seeing footage, and when through the film you realize, wow, the footage is just there to show, wow, we really don't have any money outside of the shitty looking tripods that we just hired these random people on Fiverr to create, right? So as opposed to showing us an actual war, you know what I mean? Similar to like what we got with Steven Spielberg's film, right? And fun fact, that movie celebrated its 20th anniversary this year, right? So, the timing of the show is kind of brilliant, right? But yeah, instead of actually showing the aliens attacking people, no, let's just use, shaky cam, and let's just use let's just use footage of wars from news footage of wars, and let's use that as just to let people know, hey, the war's actually going on, man. But no, you're just too cheap to get an actual VFX crew to make your film, right? That's it.
This was basically Amazon ad as far as I'm concerned, right? Like,
that's what it is. That's what I'm saying. How do you know about Amazon product placement in this store? Is like,
how do you know about this? Yeah, I only know about this because of Double Two, so drag it. That's the reason.
Their review is brilliant. One of the best bad movie roasts I've seen all year.
I haven't seen it, and I've kind of been. I probably will eventually see it.
Something pretty bad came out this year that got rivaled it.
Because I
already told Ricardo to watch it, and you didn't. Shame on you. But CC, you need to see it.
No, I love me a good bad movie, so I'm very curious.
I'd be in the mood, because I'd be in the mood. Two things. I'd be in the mood. I'd probably with friends, which I beat nobody in person in a hot minute. And then because I do that sort of research, I kind of not drinking. So. Yeah, because I try to get some proper writing done. So it's like
Ricardo's like, I am not watching War of the Worlds sober.
Yeah, right, exactly. So it is that. It's pretty much that.
But I think for me, even though I haven't got around to it yet, I have been living for all the different React videos, because this movie has made its way throughout like almost all the various React channels all over YouTube, because everyone's been like, okay, this movie's bad, but it can't be that bad, can it?
Yeah.
And then they all find out.
Yeah, but as much as I would have put this as a worst film of the year, and it's so easy to put it as worst, right? This one, which is my number one, had to top it, right? Let me just build the suspense a little bit, right? So a particular film came out in theaters. And the moment I saw the trailer for it, I was like, this could be something. And in particular, the name that pops up, right? Even though he is producing the film.
I know where you're going.
Through his, his production studio, right? But still, I know a lot of people went into this one film because of that one name. But I went in because, hey, this could be something. This could be in the trend of modern horror films that have something to say about, just our current times, right? And this show dropped the ball, in so many ways, right? As opposed to just kicking the ball and making sure it goes over the goalposts, it just drops it again and again and again. I hope this shows up in your worst stuff list, Ricardo, because I saw this show a few days ago. I was like, fuck this movie. Number one, him.
Right. Okay.
Wow. This was so bad, though. I'll start off with this. This could have been, even though this is not one of the first films to do this could have been the first sports horror film that we've ever gotten in the mainstream. In the sense that we are touching on the dark psychological elements of sports. This show could have done that. This could have been the Any Given Sunday of horror films, because you're touching on football, right? You have this guy who goes to meet this one player who is like this veteran, played by Malawians, right? And he's just there basically because you have the, it's the whole, we go in there because you have some coaches coming through and they're gonna watch your performance and then we're gonna draft you or whatever it is. It's that kind of vibe now. And this show had the potential to touch on toxic masculinity, the idea of fame and celebrity, how people push themselves to the limit to be the best and all these kind of things, and just show it in a very twisted, very dark way, right? That's what the show was on paper and what it just ends up being. And a lot of people use this term. You yourself brought it up to Ricardo, and I have to agree with you. This is a student film. This is just a big budget glorified student film, right? It looks great across the board, right? Just very great choices of cinematography and whatnot. Just visually, right? I love the use of, surreal imagery and all that kind of stuff. Like visually, it works, right? But it's just all surface level. And it just feels like, hey, I saw a David Lynch film. I saw an Alan Parker film. I saw this film, and I'm going to throw all these films into this one movie. And I don't care if you don't understand it because I love those films, so fuck you. And that's what this movie really feels like. It just feels like all these visual and creative cues that are pulled from much better films, and they just dare to just say, hey, I know more about film than you do. But where's the story? It's all set up and no payoff, right? I'm going to talk about payoff in a bit, right? Yes, the leads are good for what they are, right? People praising Marlon Wayans' performance. I mean, yes, he is good in this, right? Shockingly, well, I should say not shockingly, right? Because he was always good with dramatic roles, right? Because Ricardo and I, we talked about his roles in Bel Air, right? That fresh, which is a great show in my opinion, right? But even as the whole psychotic character that he's meant to play, did you even go far with it? Did you even go as far as he should go with it? He's just weird and psychotic for the sake of weird and psychotic, right? There's a moment involving him and a sauna. You know what I talk about, Ricardo, and leads to like the scene of violence, and how he reacts makes no sense. I'm just there like they gotta justify why he act like this. Why he had the gun in his hand? Why what was going on there? They never do. He just weird for the sake of being weird, right? And then the guy who is there, I forgot his name right now, right? He just suddenly goes mad because the show wants him to go mad. It's never justified. Even though he is pushed and pushed and pushed to the edge, it's never justified, right? So that leads to the end, boy. Oh my god, the ending is just such a big fuck you to everybody who watches, right? It's like we just have to come up with the most batshit crazy ending that we could come up with, right? And none of it makes sense, right? There's a final kill that makes no sense at all. And there's one kill in particular that I pause the show, I ball out, what? I rewind it. And it's literally, without spoiling, a character with a knife. That's all I'll see. It is one of the weirdest kills I've seen. One of the whoop! Like a trip and fall kind of kill, right? I'm watching this, right? Part of me laughing, and part of me baffled. I was like, dog, in a 2025 movie that is produced by Jordan Peele, you have a death scene like this where a character, okay, fuck it, I gotta spoil it, literally trips and stabs herself in the neck. In a Hollywood mainstream movie, somebody trips and stabs herself in the neck. And I'm supposed to take that shit seriously. Or even if it's meant to be a joke, like, what's the joke here? What is the joke here? But anyway, I don't want to ramble on too long about this, right? But yeah, to me, what brings this out so much is the potential, the wasted potential here. Again, sports horror. That's an untapped field as far as horror films go. Like, I want to see more films about, athletes who push themselves too far, right? Like, listen, Black Swan did a better film about a character going too far, right? As far as pursuing their dreams. That is a much better film. I would be surprised if one of the films that inspired this movie was Black Swan, right? But yeah, that to me is why I put this as my number one, right? It's just the wasted potential. And I'm so glad that I didn't watch this in cinema, but I watched it a few days ago. I was like, yep, this is the worst film I've seen for the year. That is why him is at is my number one. So yes, Ricardo, take it away. First off, do you have any dishonorable mentions or noble failures? And secondly, where do you rank him as far as the worst films of the year go?
Him in that camp of it was just about to be noble failure. We had a couple interesting moments, but then I just think about it like that. It's just bad. Okay, so I have one kind of couple noble failures I'll put in the camp and for different reasons, right? So Rust. That came out this year, right?
Oh.
I swear that came out this year.
It did, yeah, after the whole Alec Baldwin controversy stuff.
Right. It got delayed. I was watching it. And I put it on my list, but I was looking up the movie, and I see it came out last year. I was like, did it come out last year?
I was hearing that it was one of those shows that after the fact was really all that was really all that interesting. So that's why I didn't bother to watch
Right.
it.
And I just felt, I was like, after all of this drama, I was like, wait, would I have watched this movie if it wasn't for the bullshit with Alec Baldwin?
Right.
And it's like, this was, go ahead.
Here, stateside, it's finally made its way to Walmart.
Right. So yeah, it just fall flat. It was kind of a mess. And I was like, wow, seriously, if it wasn't for this, I would have just kind of not cared.
Right.
Second one, this one is controversial, I'll imagine, and I could see it. Have people really like this movie, but I just like, oh, that is it. And it's like, it just feel like just the most, and it's a filmmaker I like, but it just felt like the most embellished and ingratiating part of this filmmaking part, and it is decided, let me make a whole movie off of this Warfare. I kind of didn't like this.
Here's the thing. I wanted to see it. But after you told me you didn't care for it, I was like, okay, maybe I'll hold off on it. But yeah, some people actually rank this as one of the best for the year. So
I seen a lot of people really liking this, and I was like, no, this just feel like Civil War, but like, well, the war parts, and well, they put in a real context. So this guy just wanted to shoot more war shit, and he just come up with a somewhat flimsy narrative to film it around, because I think this actually happened. So you just look for like some war story and then say, okay, I'm gonna do this. And I don't know, this I get a lot of American Sniper vibes from this. That's my problem with it. It's like this little uncomfortable, especially knowing the actual history of that one, the behind the scenes and the context side. But it actually, look, if anybody who defending this, they'll say, well, it knows about the soldiers and experience and All right, fine. Like, but I don't know, this just does not work for me. And I don't put it as outright bad, but just kind of any noble failure camp. Like, it's just that.
Mm-hmm.
All right, so the list proper is like pretty much, it's mostly your list actually. Yeah, him, sucked. Kind of bad, didn't work. Captain America, disappointing. It could have been worse. Yeah, Tron Ares kind of hated that the most probably for the year. So yeah, that's probably my list. There's nothing really much else to talk about other than those. Like I can't think of anything that I watched because all the other stuff I skipped. And I just watched.
All right, so Ricardo, I'm gonna make you out here now, right? Because one of the films that I will talk about as far as best stuff goes, right? We saw on the exact day that you mentioned to me that you saw this one particular film, and I thought this was going to be your number one. I was tempted to see it for myself, but because I wasn't interested in it at all, even though it's a remake, a live-action remake of one of the greatest animated films of all time, a live-action remake that nobody asked for, but Disney being Disney, do it, right? So yeah, I'm going to throw that one, and one that you actually say was going to be in your own stuff, right? So the one that I wanted to see, but you told me you saw, but you didn't care to talk about, was Snow White. And the one that you say would have been in your own stuff is Lilo and Stitch.
I clean forget about this. Yes, Snow White
and Lilo and Stitch. So yeah, Ricardo, you have the floor. Tell me how bad. You talked to me about how bad it was, but you reviewed Lilo and Stitch, but you hated that film.
I hated it, but like I just pointed to the camp of whatever. Like we just accepted this now. I just look at these fucking movies like a hurricane or something. Like this happened. Yeah, you just had to prepare for them. You shelter and hunker down, and you move on. Like you have nothing to talk about. Like that's the thing with that. So I completely forget about all the Disney remakes. Like I just throw that in its own bin and just leave it there. Like nothing to talk about. Like Lilo and Stitch was just, why it is you make this? They just make the same movie but worse, and they just kind of add some interesting things. And then it's all the extra bullshit around it. Like, look, we had to get into this extra talk about the world kind of becoming kind of weird in terms of like where the cinema art form going and what is make money and why, especially with all of this Netflix buying out Warner Brothers thing, and it's all of this, right? So that's why these movies look and feel the way they do. It had nothing to do with like the quality of the film necessary or the people involved. Like it's like, well, yeah, I get why I make this. And Lilo and Stitch, because Stitch is, from what I understand, even more popular than Mickey Mouse internationally. Like somebody pointed that out. From what I gathered, that's the case. It's like, okay, I totally understand why you make him look like that and it's time to sell toys and it's all of that. So I can imagine children watching this, they never see the original and they make a ton of things. I personally hated it, but it's just like with Lion King. It's like with Lion King. Like, whatever, moving on. Like that, it wasn't, I couldn't like get myself to care one way or the other. Snow White is pretty bad. Like, but it's mostly because of what's she name? Wonder Woman.
Oh yeah, Gal Gadot. And her the performance that she thought she did, she thought was great, right? And I hear it was bad, like cringe.
But this was like, it was bad on the level of, seriously, you get this job, like how? Like I get how, but like seriously, like they couldn't get somebody else for this. Like they couldn't get back Charlize Theron, like something. It pretty bad. Like it was just that. But like again, it's another remake. Is the Disney remakes again? I put them in their own bin because I get why these exist. They started off kind of strong, and then now I just treat them like a thing, just an event. It's like it's like you read it about earthquake in Miami or something like that on the news. That's how I look at these things. It's just something. They're so big, and you can't really do anything about it. It's just a disaster. Fuck it, moving on. That's how I just feel about these at this point.
Yeah, well, I think that attitude is actually what's kind of saving us from the remakes because they have actually been making less and less money, and I think because of, like I don't know if anyone else has noticed, but this year we had a lot of news of a lot of remakes that quietly got canceled. The live action remake of Bambi got canceled. The live action remake of Aristocats that Questlove was going to do got canceled.
Which might have worked because that's something kind of fire, but I get it. Whoever.
Right. Like, it's very much this idea of like, oh, okay. I think that the attitude of ignoring them and hoping they're going away is actually working a little bit because, some of them are making. I mean, Lilo and Stitch was always going to make money. You made the whole point that Stitch is more popular than Mickey Mouse internationally. But I also think that even in America, Stitch is stupid popular. Again, when I'm not here, I work retail. The amount of shit we sell with Stitch's face all over it is ridiculous.
Right.
But putting that aside, I do think that these films are like as much like I think the kind of habitual attendance that was what was keeping these movies afloat is finally starting to die down a little bit. Like people going, oh, of course I'm going to go see the new Disney movie. Why would I not? It doesn't matter if it's going to be any good or not. I'm just going to go see it.
Right.
And then kind of going.
And even stuff that just fell flat like Leo or stuff like it just came and went for me. It's like, all right, but it's not worth mentioning. Like I watch them. Not worth mentioning. Like sorry to say it, and again, I should mention them because they still are technically movies. I'll put that to it. But it's just they're really going beyond the pale in terms of like what product is and just transforming these things into just these mutations just pure content machines. And then listen, to watch Disney take a complete 180 on the whole AI thing is like, wow, boy, fuck all you're doing. Like, you serious? Like, guys, all you do after all of that? Like, even if you're a pro AI person somehow, you should still hate that. Because like, wow, they really don't care, boy. Wow.
Well, because it's really ridiculous. It's such a blatant. Back in the 90s, there was that whole thing where I think Bob Iger's predecessor, there was that memo that leaked the whole gentleman, we are under no obligation to make art.
Right.
Like that memo, right? Where he was like, art is like, we make more money when we make art, but at the end of the day, if art does not make money, we do not have an obligation to make art. And it's so wild that we are living at an era where we are watching that attitude fully
actually manifest. Yeah,
it's manifesting because it's blatantly like, oh, we're at this point in time where art does not make money inherently. So again, Disney is under no obligation to make art. So yeah, it's fascinating and peculiar, and like this year has been wild one for the company. I think I don't know if you saw, there was an article that came out about Elio and how at one point this was going to be a much more personal, a much more interesting movie, and then somewhere along the process Disney completely hijacked it because because they kind of wanted to pivot the company's direction entirely, partially because of the recent presidential election, and they wanted to kind of appeal to the new status quo, and so they started changing a lot of their projects behind the scenes, and then you had people, and then the person who originally originated the idea for Elio ended up walking out and like abandoned the whole project, and then they ended up moving on without him, and so you end up with this film that was incredibly personal to someone who wasn't here. Like the company at this point has just kind of reduced it to something with no personality at all. And I feel like that's kind of what I haven't watched a Disney movie in theaters in some time. I mostly follow this from the sidelines because I am quietly hoping to starve this fire of oxygen. Like I'm really hoping that like if enough people stop watching the live action remakes, even to cover them and review them, maybe they will eventually have to go, okay, we're going to have to think of a new strategy. But but the big takeaway I keep seeing, and you can confirm or deny this since you've actually watched more of them than I have, is that it seems like the big thing a lot of these movies is missing is personality.
Yep.
Like the big thing is that like, oh, it's just the new Disney movie. There's not really a sense of personality. There's nothing that feels like personal and specific to an artist. It's just press some buttons and art come out. So of course they're going to love AI.
Yeah. They really, but to me, it really feel like the whole don't give a shit thing. But yeah, whatever.
Yes.
Like that's why, yeah, as I say, Matthew, this is why I kind of forget about these movies because it really out of sight, out of mind at this point for me.
No, I mean, and they are forgettable at the end of the day, right? And
They
just
really,
to,
really
Yes.
forget.
and just to wrap things up before we jump into CC's list, Moana, why?
Right.
I saw that teaser and I just said why.
I don't want to see.
I just
I
moved
don't
on.
want to see. I didn't engage. It was like
And a year
Yeah.
after we got Moana 2, which everybody asked for. So
Right.
we got a sequel that everybody asked for and a live action remake of the original that everybody asked for, right? All right, so CC, last but not least,
Oh Lord.
your list. Do you have any dishonorable mentions by chance?
I don't have as much in the way of dishonorable mentions. So this year, with trying to watch every Godzilla movie ever made, and there were a couple other things, fell down a Superman rabbit hole. My viewing habits were a lot more sporadic than they normally are, much less focused. But there were a few things I was able, like there were quite a few things I was able to. I had 15 things I really enjoyed. But in the midst of all this, there were two films that completely stood out as just absolute, utter disasters. One of which was technically more recent, but only by a technicality, and I'll get into that. But so, as I mentioned, I watched every Godzilla movie that ever came out. Well, almost like just about all of them. I think including like several of the American. There's like I haven't seen the American recut of the Return of Godzilla, Godzilla 1985, simply because it's actually been hard to get a hold of. But for the most part, I was able to watch. I watched every Godzilla movie ever made, including finally watching some of the MonsterVerse films. But in the midst of all these, one film stood out as especially bad. Like one film out of all of the Godzilla movies I watched stood out as especially bad. And this isn't a hot take, but actually, no, this might be a hot take because I've been seeing people trying to redeem this movie. And it pisses me off a little bit because I've been seeing people being like, oh, is that really such a bad movie? At the end of the day, like, here's all these ways in which you could actually look at it that might be a good movie. And so I tried. I watched it and I tried to be like, okay, let me give this the benefit of the doubt. But no, here I am in the year 2025 to tell you that Roland Emmerich's Godzilla is just as bad as we all remember it being.
Definitely.
Like,
oh God,
no.
But lucky you, CC.
Trying to reference that's so bad.
Yeah.
I think it's some Japanese movie that came out in '74 or something like that. Didn't work. No, yeah, no.
No, I knew it was gonna be Roland Emmerich's
never
film.
get better.
I knew.
Emmerich.
Yeah.
It's
only
so
bullshit.
wild because
It's only bullshitters defending that bullshit.
No, I think I know why. I think I know why, right? Sorry to interject, right? But I think it's because I think it's because it came out in the late 90s. So it's like, well, we could look back at 90s films and be like, oh, some of them were cheesy, but listen, it's popcorn, escapist fun, man. But no, I will never forget seeing that film in theaters. Lucky you, I saw it in theaters, right? And I just came out of it like, wow, that was not good. That was not good at all. No.
I'm not reminded of that because of Puffy. We now talk about Puffy now.
Yes. And no, okay. So leading up to the release of the film, P. Diddy's, when you call yourself Puff Daddy's Come With Me was the driving song for that movie. Also, I think what is I forgot the name of the rock group, but they did a cover of Heroes. Those were the two songs that drove that movie, right? And you're just like, oh my god, well, it's from the same guy who did Independence Day, so it has to be great, right? It wasn't. It's really bad.
Yeah.
It's really
no,
bad.
well,
the thing is the cartoon that it spins off from is solid.
I heard you guys were mentioning that. You guys were mentioning, I think, a couple, like last time I recorded with you. I remember you mentioning that the cartoon is really good, and like the cartoon is surprisingly good. But after watching the movie, I was like, whoa, because the thing about the movie, I have kind of realized Roland Emmerich at one point in time was a filmmaker I really liked, and I do really like Independence Day.
I still respect him a lot.
Stargate. I really like. I really have a soft spot for Universal Soldier.
2012 is a guilty pleasure movie of mine. I know it's stupid, but it's a guilty pleasure film. It's so dumb, but it's so fun at the same time, right? But that's just me.
Oh man. Well, and I think for me that's kind of been Roland Emmerich's weird little saving grace, if that makes sense. Like the thing about Roland Emmerich that people have been defending him on is like, well, yeah, he's not the most intellectual filmmaker, but you know, if you shut your brain off and have a good time, like at least he's entertaining. It's similar to the Michael Bay. It's some like people defend Michael Bay the same way, where they're like, oh, if you just shut your brain off, you have a good time. But
no, he's one of those guys. Yeah, I used to always make this kind of shitty joke. But I used to say he's Michael Bay's gay cousin, right? That's a joke, right?
Yes, yes. No, I mean that's very accurate.
Right, but my attitude was, look, he's a person who very deliberately put himself in a space. Like I genuinely come around on Independence Day, and he made a movie that's based on a conspiracy theory, and he always felt like that because I understand he comes from a relatively wealthy family and whoever it is, and there's a famous conspiracy theory, with his anti-Stratforian.
Yes, I know the movie you're talking about.
Right, anti-Stratfordian or something like that. I forget what he conspiracy. Basically, the conspiracy theory is that Shakespeare is not Shakespeare. Or Shakespeare didn't write Shakespeare.
That Shakespeare didn't write Shakespeare. Yeah.
Right, and it's some famous earl and it's some rich guy who wanted to just give back to the masses and free the masses some way. And his movies always felt like that. Like, hey, these movies always like they end with something real, like politically correct and kind of awesome in a certain way. Like especially his disaster movies, like the end of it. The end of the cold one, the cold thing is like, well, all of these white people, right? All of these white people had to move to Mexico. You see what we're trying to say here? And like, and then at the end of 2012, wait, look, Africa, everything is Africa now. Like, we're trying to say here, like, it's that, right? He's that guy, and I was like, I get it. Like, he's one of those guys I appreciate in that sense, kind of.
Well, and I think that like I have increasingly found myself in this position where like I have the films of his that I like, but engaging with his wider body of work is increasingly frustrating because you keep encountering films other people like, and I go, whoa, this, like last year I went on a whole rant about The Patriot.
Right.
Awful, truly terrible, overly long movie that is like feels like three films at war with each other, trying to be what it doesn't know what it wants to be. But the problem with Godzilla, and I mean this in all sincerity, I have never, it has been a long time, I can't say never, that I have seen a blockbuster that assumed its audience was this stupid.
Yeah.
That is the thing about Godzilla to me that really bothers me watching it, is I'm like, wow. Like, I have complained many times on the show, off the show, whenever I can, about Netflix's little memo where they were saying to their writers, hey, when you create stuff, please make sure that whatever you're writing plays well to people who just kind of have it on in the background. So make sure you have characters remind people verbally what the plot is.
I know what you're talking about.
Yeah. So it's amazing because I kind of think Roland Emmerich, especially with Godzilla, is kind of the pioneer of that. Because Godzilla is written as if with the assumption that its audience is stupid, and I found that insulting. This is before your smartphone distracting you. So it's literally meant literally even before the age of the smartphone. Roland Emmerich comes out with this movie where he just assumes that everyone, and I when I say stupid, I mean stupid. Roland Emmerich,
pretty bad. Yeah.
Roland Emmerich decided that whoever was going to go see a Godzilla movie was the biggest idiot in the world, and that more than anything else pissed me off watching it. There's this awful moment in the movie where it's towards the end where like the main characters are on the run and Godzilla is chasing them, right? And they're on the phone with the military and they're like, don't worry, we'll try to lead him towards the Brooklyn Bridge. Cut to the military and they say they're leading him to the Brooklyn Bridge. On the phone says to someone else, like, they're going to take him to the Brooklyn Bridge. And then I shit you not, smash cut to the Brooklyn Bridge with a sign that says Brooklyn Bridge. Like, it's one of those, like, it's one of those things where I'm like, especially in a year where two filmmakers in particular reminded me what a smart blockbuster can look like. Also, and other Godzilla movies, watching Roland Emmerich's Godzilla and having this absolute reminder of like, oh yeah, some people think that the general movie-going public are stupid. And I think that was to me the thing that was so insulting. I probably would have just called it good on Godzilla. Like that would have been like my one worst movie of the year and I would have moved on. But a couple weeks ago, I stumbled on a movie that is worse, and not worse in the same way, but it is easily the worst movie I saw this year, and I have seen in a long time. And I was genuinely surprised because, like, my expectations for this film were not high, but I was surprised at how bad this was. And I'll start with a question. What do either of you, how familiar are you? How much do either of you know about the movie Grizzly 2?
No, I don't know much about it.
I've heard it. I've heard about it, but more in bad movie discussions. That's it.
Right.
So,
Not familiar.
Grizzly 2 originally was supposed to come out in the 80s as the sequel to the Jaws knockoff Grizzly, which I've also seen. I actually borrowed both films and was curious because I was going through a whole thing this year where I was watching kind of Jaws knockoffs, and there's a couple really good ones actually, but then there were a lot of stinkers. But Grizzly 2 is one of the most famous unfinished movies because what had happened was this production company got the rights to make a Grizzly sequel. They went out to Hungary, of all places, and started making the movie. And in the middle of the production, ran out of money. And they got bailed out by a Japanese investor, and they got some more movie made, and then they ran out of money again. And the film sat unfinished for decades. I can't remember what year. I think it was in the 2010s. An unfinished, like a work print of the film arrived on the internet. Someone illegally uploaded the unfinished work print to the internet, because one of the things about this movie that's so interesting to a lot of people is that the movie begins with a scene where 3 teenagers are killed by the grizzly bear, and then the movie goes on, and does other things, because, every animal attack movie or slasher has to begin with 3 teenagers getting killed. But the thing that a lot of people thought was really funny is that the 3 teenagers are played by Charlie Sheen, Laura Dern, and George Clooney.
Right.
What?
So yeah, no, and like it's so funny. Like it's like the movie, and so the movie became somewhat infamous, and it became something of a joke.
Right.
And then a dubious production company bought the film with the goal to complete it, and they finished it and released it in 2020, I think, like around that time. I watched it out of curiosity because, I'd heard about Grizzly 2 for a while, and I'd been curious, and I was watching animal attack movies, and I watched it. The version of Grizzly 2 that we have is one of the worst movies I have ever seen on a technical level, because this company that finished making it clearly had no idea what they were doing. The movie is missing a lot of footage. I mean, the basic conceit is that this park is having a concert in the middle of the park for some reason, and there's a killer grizzly bear on the loose who's trying to avenge the death of her cub murdered in an opening sequence that was never shot. I kid you not. So she's going on a rampage, killing people, and they've got to stop her before she makes it to the concert. It's really bad. They had only shot a little bit of the grizzly footage, most of the stuff with certain actors, but not very much grizzly footage. And there was like a bunch of B-roll for the concert that never got finished, and a bunch of just other B-roll of like nature and stuff. Like they had like 65% of a movie done, I think, maybe 70. The company that decided to finish the job decided to fill in those gaps with stock footage. Right. Like contemporary bought stock footage, and to the point where, I kid you not, at the end of the movie, the credits even list several YouTube channels where they got stock footage and sound effects from to finish the job. It's like
that is a rough part.
And it's bad because my wife and I are watching this movie and we're laughing our asses off because we're having this game of, when was this footage shot? Because you'll have the footage from 1980 and then they'll intercut it with B-roll from the 2000s or 2010s or something. And like within the same scene, it's jarring as hell. Wow. And like you're watching it, it's just this absolute, like and even the opening sequence I just told you about, because again, the whole inciting incident of the movie is that a hunter kills the cub of a grizzly bear who then goes on a rampage. Well, they never shot that sequence. So they have to get B-roll of a hunter B-roll of a grizzly bear and a grizzly bear cub that was all clearly shot with digital cameras. And they have to somehow make it look like they're anywhere in the same place and that the hunter has somehow killed this cub and like try to like make any of this make any sense. And it doesn't. It's a genuinely incoherent film. It's one of those movies where you watch it and you go, you will be, the editing is so bad. This movie is so bad. It actually made me rethink the Kuleshov effect. Because the whole point of the Kuleshov effect is that if you present people with two shots edited together, they will assume there's a connection. But this movie is so badly edited, and some of the shots are so incoherent that I genuinely am like, right, it doesn't make any sense. And I'm like, I don't understand what any of this has to do with anything. So, yeah, War of the Worlds definitely sounds like one of the absolute bad, like one of the worst bad like movies of recent memory. But for bad movie aficionados, I highly recommend Grizzly 2 for being just an absolute, like, I don't recommend the Roland Emmerich Godzilla. It's bad in a kind of an insulting way and kind of a wow, you think your audience are morons kind of way. But Grizzly 2 is such a terribly constructed movie and was so clearly a bad idea in so many ways that I actually think it makes for something of a hilarious viewing experience. Like literally, I promise you will watch this movie and go, oh, I could have edited certain parts of this better than these people did. What the hell? And also, no attempt made to make the digital stock footage and the original footage from the 80s that have been sitting in a can for a few decades actually match up with each other. So Grizzly 2, incoherent.
Something else on a list of pretty much bad on the list, Matthew, but I didn't see. Oh, right. Something else also, but I only know about it because I double toasted. Playdate. Some movie called Playdate.
I heard of that. That came out on Amazon Prime, right? I think, right?
I have no idea. I'll make the effort to watch that, or here's the thing. These movies, listen, I have zero patience of writing some good. I trying to write some good shit myself. I trying to write it, but like, look, I'm no big writer. But I'm trying to write something. And this stuff just kind of almost like it feels like a psyop to poison my brain, to make sure I don't write anything good. Like, look, I don't think I'll be writing any masterpieces anytime soon. But like, I actively avoid this bullshit. And it's funny now, but like, it's fucking me up a little bit. So like, I don't even want to watch a double toasted review of this. But I'll still watch it just to kill some time or whatever. So yeah, stuff like that. Like, that's why I try to avoid this garbage though. Like, oh god, man, enough though.